questions, which are entirely appropriate.
We have to stop there, Lisa.
When did you turn in? When did Wayne Easter turn into Ron Leifer? It's confusing.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to your staff, your colleagues for coming today. I think the heart of the issue is why constituents in my riding are particularly upset is about fairness and the perception that all Canadians are paying their fair share. And there's also the second element, which in my humble opinion is a perception that the CRA treats everybody equally, that it's not just the people that can afford to hire KPMG for $100,000, and the perception that they're getting a better deal than the truck driver, the taxi driver that's being audited for their receipts and their gas receipts and stuff like that, and they're having to spend so much time, and not just the money and the effort, but their time, and people are very concerned when the CRA picks up the phone and starts reviewing their file. And so I think that's where the heart of the issue is. And an internal audit for the CRA in October 2010 said that the agency had concerns that they didn't have the resources to deal with complex cases, specifically international tax evasion, because of a lack of resources. And it was the previous government that cut heavily into the CRA. So my question, and please be very brief because I have a lot of questions, had the previous government's cuts had an impact on the CRA being able to fulfill its mandate specifically on international tax evasion?
On the first question, and I'll try to be very brief, we have increasingly taken a very different approach to small and medium-sized enterprises than to large international global enterprises. Increasingly with small, you are seeing far fewer deployment of audits, and you've seen that we've introduced the liaison officer initiative. Rather than come and approach a small business person with an audit, we're moving our resources to come to small business with a helping hand to say, how can I help you? You're a plumber, you're an electrician. It's probably good that we sit down with you and help you so that you can avoid some of the mistakes that you're making. Where we are redeploying our resources to international and large business. So I've served two governments. I serve both governments loyally. We work with the resources that governments give to us. Obviously, we have come through a period of considerable fiscal restraint, but during that period, we redeployed as best we could all of the resources to be stronger and more effective in a 5-year period there. And we have been given some tools. The new budget gives us an enormous reinvestment that will be a return for the Crown and will, I think, move us forward in addressing the concern that I know Canadians have, as will international efforts.
Thank you. The CRA determination of whether tax avoidance has occurred is made on a balance of probabilities. So tax avoidance, balance of probabilities, which is a lesser threshold than beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, in your opinion, did the taxpayers that participated in the Isle of Man tax scheme participate in tax avoidance on a balance of probabilities?
Mr. Gallivan.
Again, taxpayer confidentiality prevents me from responding specifically.
But it's not specifically. It's hypothetically, if you participated in a tax scheme like that on a balance of probabilities, did you participate in tax avoidance? And it's a simple yes or no question.
Well, to me, it's not as simple because first I have to state on the advice of Department of Justice that I can't comment on specific taxpayer situations. What I will say is the CRA examines every case based on its facts. I think I can allow that in this case, even though there was the Isle of Man has been applied, there could be variations. There could be variations in the approach by the taxpayer, and those facts may vary. Finally, our work on this matter is far from done. There are files active before the court in respect to tax assessments that we've levied. There's action in front of the courts with respect to obtaining additional names. Our minister announced April 11th that we're pursuing all Canadians who have interaction with the Isle of Man to risk assess those transactions. So our work is far from done.
Thank you. Lastly, I think we can all agree on the committee that the balance between a regulator and those who they regulate is pretty sensitive. Now, I'm going to refer to your Code of Integrity and Professional Conduct and quote directly from the duty of loyalty portion. And it says, I quote, employment in the public service requires the acceptance of certain constraints, which should be considered in our day-to-day activities and our off-duty conduct. And now I will refer to the CBC's report on April 17, 2016, where 20 CRA officials from the Compliance Division were not only invited, but required to attend an after-hours reception. Now, I was a lawyer in my previous life, and you have to attend professional settings. I understand that people at the CRA are CPAs, but the conflict of interest comes from this, in this specific case. CRA officials from the Compliance Division, individuals from KPMG, and individuals from the CPA. And the CPA hosted the event. Now, generally, that wouldn't be an issue, but the CPA applied for intervener status on the issue between the CRA and KPMG. So now that puts the CRA in a direct conflict of attending a CPA and a KPMG event. And in that story by CBC,
Mr. Graywell, would you wrap it up? You're well over.
Do you not think or agree that it was a conflict of interest for the CRA to attend when CPA applied for intervener status and KPMG officials were there?
Well, in broad strokes, CRA could never leave the Connaught building if we were concerned that we were going to come into interaction with the taxpayer or taxpayer's representative with which we had issues. Given that there are 100,000 appeals in a year, 5,000 litigation cases, all of these are potential there. I don't believe it's our conduct, it's not our attendance. Section 241 continues to apply in all of these instances.
And I say it from my perspective.
Oh, I've got to wrap you up. You're already hitting 7 minutes, my friend.
Thank you.
Mr. Dussault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to come back quickly on the letter